Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. In today's video, we are discussing the topic of, is it okay to be a stay-at-home dad? There has been a huge trend of stay-at-home fathers, especially ever since the pandemic. We are learning that a lot of fathers are actually willing and wanting to stay home with the kid. In today's video, we are going to be discussing some of the topics and some of the questions you should be asking yourself before you make the decision to jump in being a stay-at-home father. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's just jump right into the question of, is it okay to be a stay-at-home father? Now, you should not be asking anyone this. The only people you should be asking is who's up under your roof. So you should be asking your wife, your husband, your significant other, or whoever lives in your home. You should not be going to your neighbor, your parents, and getting permission from anyone. You have to do what's best for your family, and I think that's what a lot of families realized whenever the pandemic happened. If I had to assume why there was a huge increase in stay-at-home dads, is more than likely because whenever people sat down and they looked at their financials, they looked at what was smart for them, especially for the pandemic, and how they were going to save as much money as possible, because of course a lot of people were losing jobs. It just made more sense for a lot of women to go to work and a lot of dads to stay at home, more than likely because some women were bringing in a little bit more money than the father. And of course, daycares were shutting down, and the daycares that were open were very expensive to go to. So for a lot of families, it just made a lot more sense for a lot of dads to stay at home. Obviously, this is not the social norm, and a lot of people are frowning upon it, but at the end of the day, you have to do what is best for your family. When you are doing something that benefits your family, you do not need to be asking Nancy Sue down the street or your mom and dad or whoever else that's going to give their opinion. You do not need to be asking anyone. So if you, your wife, your husband, or whoever's in your household decides that, hey, this is what's going to work for us, this is what's going to benefit us the best financially, as well as this is what's going to help our kids in the long run a lot better than sending them off to daycare or hiring a nanny or put them at risk of sending them to a daycare, then that is just what you have to do. You should not be asking anyone. So obviously the answer to this question is yes, it's definitely okay. Don't worry about social norms. Now the next question you should be asking yourself is, are you ready for the criticism and judgment that's going to come along with being a stay-at-home dad? Now of course this is not an easy task, and as we've learned, being a stay-at-home parent is very challenging. However, a lot of stay-at-home parents are not getting the respect that they deserve. So one of the things you have to consider before becoming a stay-at-home parent is, are you ready for the criticism and judgment that's going to come along with being a stay-at-home parent? Now you have to realize that you are not going to have a source of income, and a lot of people put their self-worth on how much income they're able to bring into the household. Now you unfortunately will not have that. However, you are a huge value to the family, and you're a huge asset that should be recognized. Now unfortunately, in a lot of cases, a lot of stay-at-home parents do not get the respect that they so greatly deserve. So one of the things that you're going to have to prepare for is you're going to have to reward yourself. You're going to have your own self-care routine, and you have to know that at the end of the day, you are a huge asset to you and your family, and you're doing what's best for you and your family. Because once you start seeking that attention and that validation from everyone else, you are more than likely not going to receive it. Now, I'm pretty sure there are some great parents out there and some great friends that are going to support you along the way. However, you're still going to have to deal with the public's opinion, and a lot of people in your friend group may or may not accept what your decision is, and that is completely okay, you guys. Because at the end of the day, like I said before, you have to do what is best for your family and say forget everyone else's opinion and judgment. So the next thing you should consider if you're thinking about becoming a stay-at-home father is who is going to be your support system. Now, this is where the things get really tricky at, is because you have stay-at-home moms. But the thing is, a lot of these stay-at-home moms do not want stay-at-home dads being a part of their groups or being a part of their cliques or being a part of their advice, Facebook groups, or whatever they might have going on. Now, I can see both sides. I do feel like because there is an opposite sex thing going on, and a lot of women feel comfortable with sharing their stories because it's all women. I definitely understand it, and I'm not judging them for wanting all women in their group. That is perfectly understandable. However, you guys, stay-at-home dad groups are growing. There's a lot of communities growing. There's a lot of people that's looking for people that are just like us, that are stay-at-home dads that are looking for that connection. This is why I'm creating this channel. This is why I want to create this type of content, because we need to build our own community. Now, of course, if women want to invite you to their group, you should more than definitely accept their invitation. However, I will say that it's probably going to be a lot more limited, and you have to understand that that is perfectly okay, and they're allowed to have their opinion as well as you're allowed to have your opinion. But that does not mean there is not a support group out there somewhere for you, because like I said, there is a huge increase of stay-at-home dads that are probably lost just like the rest of us and that want that support system, and it's going to be a huge value and asset to not only you but your family as a whole, because they're going to be able to provide a lot of advice and a lot of answers to the questions that you might have. The next thing that you need to consider is how you're going to keep your own identity. Now, you hear a lot of people get burnout, or a lot of people get tired of being a stay-at-home parent, and I honestly feel like it's because they just label themselves as a stay-at-home parent and there's nothing else. You guys, you have to have your own self-care routine, your own identity. You still need to hang out with your friends. You still need to be able to do your own thing and have your own identity. It is very important to keep your own identity. You need to keep your own friends. You need to keep your own hobbies. You need to keep everything separate from being a stay-at-home parent. So in that way, you don't feel burnout very quickly. I think the biggest mistake that parents make is they think that because they're a stay-at-home parent, they're no longer allowed to have their own self-care routine. They're no longer allowed to have their own hobbies, and that could not be further from the truth. At some point in time, you have to work out with your significant other when you're allowed to have your alone time, because at the end of the day, just because you're the stay-at-home parent, it is a 24/7 job, but you still need to have your breaks just like you would in a regular 9-to-5 job. So what I recommend is just maybe create a schedule with your significant other, and maybe, hey, like on Saturday and Sunday between this time frame, I need a little bit of time to hang out with my friends, or I need a little bit of time to have my own hobbies. Because at the end of the day, that little bit of break from your kids or your significant other is going to be a huge asset, because it's going to help you keep your sanity along this process. Because trust me, being with kids all day long is a lot more work than what people think it is. And once again, you do not need any validation to know that you deserve a break. Okay, so the next thing that you need to consider before becoming a stay-at-home parent is how you're going to normalize this new lifestyle that you're going to be living. Because at the end of the day, like I said, stay-at-home dads is still on the rise. It's still a very trendy thing that's going on. And it's starting to become normalized little by little, but not 100% all the way across the board. So you have to be capable of not being embarrassed by being a stay-at-home dad. You have to be capable of having those conversations of like, hey, this is what I do. You're gonna have those people that's gonna ask you those snarky questions of like, so what do you do all day? You just sit at home, you don't do anything. You're gonna have these snarky comments, and as a stay-at-home parent, you're gonna have to realize how to carry yourself in a correct format. And at the end of the day, you have to know that you are doing this because this is what's best for your family. As well as, that does not mean you're giving up on your career. It does not mean you're just giving up on all your goals, or you lost all ambitions, or that you're lazy. You have to be able to carry yourself and explain yourself, so that way you're not getting down and out and you don't become depressed. You're gonna have to be able to have that conversation and be like, look, I might be doing this temporarily, but it's not a forever thing. I still have my goals. I still have my ambitions. I still have my career that I want, and we can normalize this. This is not something that is really out of the ordinary. We have so many stay-at-home moms that work really, really hard, and they get a lot more credit than what they used to. And stay-at-home dads deserve that same amount of credit, because it's the same job with just a different gender. And at the end of the day, just because you're not bringing in income doesn't mean that you're not working a job. As well as, this does not mean you're giving up on your career. It does not mean you're giving up on your goals, and that needs to be explained. You don't want to get downed out and depressed because you feel like you're not adding value to your family, because you most definitely are. And that also does not mean that you're not educated enough to have a career, or that you don't have a career waiting for you. As soon as your duty as a stay-at-home parent is over with, you guys, your life is not ending. I think you need to be able to explain that in the best way possible, because it's just going to help you a lot more mentally when you're able to respond and not get caught up in your feelings. So I really hope you enjoyed this informational video about stay-at-home dads. If you did, go ahead and click on the video that's floating around here, somewhere around here. I upload videos every single week on this channel about stay-at-home dads and what it's like to be a stay-at-home dad. So if you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!